Have you ever wondered how I create these podcasts? Well, now, thanks to our friends at Anchor.fm, you too can create your own free podcast with included tools on their website. You don't even need a microphone, a nice computer, a lot of equipment. You can go right on their app, which you can download at Anchor.fm while you're signing up for your own podcast, and record directly with them. You can take phone calls and voicemails, etc. And from day one, you can make ad revenue for your podcast. There aren't any other platforms out there that from day one allow you to have ad revenue. So if you download the free Anchor app at Anchor.fm, you can get started today. They are now our host for the podcast, so we're stoked to be a part of their system. And you can too. Again, check out Anchor.fm to get started today. And now, on with the show. Hi, welcome to Notes from the Road. I'm your host, Evan Peary. I've spent more than a decade on tour with acts like Pentatonix, Dan and Shay, and Andy Mineo. And I've slept everywhere from tour buses and floors to one-star hotel rooms and 15-passenger vans. My goal with this podcast is to provide a window into the side of touring life you don't see on Instagram or MTV. The behind-the-scenes, nitty-gritty tales of comedy, chaos, and camaraderie. Every episode, I'll be speaking with a different touring professional I've met along the way, giving them the opportunity to tell their story of how they got started, where they're headed, and everything else in between. This episode, I'm joined by Lindsey Bathke, whose touring resume includes Metallica, Tegan and Sara, and Kacey Musgraves, to name a few. Lindsey is someone who's always smiling. Her warm and kind nature is contagious and evident in everything she does. Her story starts out at the Fox Theater in Boulder, Colorado, and leads to traveling the world with a bunch of modern-day icons. We talk about wellness, empowering women on the road, and what it's like to have 9 rappers show up at your door on your first day of tour. This is Notes from the Road with Lindsey Bathke. Welcome to Notes from the Road, Lindsey Bathke.
Thank you very much for having me. I feel very honored.
I'm glad you could be here. It is Kitchen Notes. Good did you just say?
Kitchen conversations.
Kitchen conversation, because we're having this one in my kitchen.
Kitchen conversations.
Coffee, over coffee right now. Very comfortable. Trying to make this relax for everybody.
You've done a really nice job. We also have a coffee candle.
It's a full coffee theme. You know me. It's a full coffee theming right now.
I do. Okay.
So I have 2 thoughts for this conversation with you today, because I think these are things that you can speak to.
Okay.
It's your experience on the road. I feel like tour family would be a very strong background narrative to talk about, because I feel like your experience on the road, that's always been good. You've had a really solid tour family, people that you've been close with, gotten close with, etc. And then the second one is, because I know I'd really love you to have your full force and opinion on just women in touring.
Yeah.
And women in general, badass women, empowering women, etc. But I feel like even in the decade plus that I've been doing this, and I know you're at it a few more years than me, more women out there in general, I'd say. I've been seeing it more women artists kind of saying, nope, we're going to bring badass women to work for us too. You know, there have to be women that do all these jobs. So just 2 thoughts, we can kind of come in and out of them, but I figured those would be 2 kind of good intertwining things for this podcast.
Great.
Colorado. Let's start in Colorado, because that is where Lindsey is from originally. And then what was your sort of interest in touring? And I feel like most of us have, like, we were in college, because we're not the musicians. We weren't like, I was playing guitar in my bedroom at 15 and that was my interest point. But a lot of us were like, oh, what is touring, music, entertainment, putting on a live show, etc. And just refresh my memory, because I'm sure we've had this conversation a million times.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago.
A decade of friendship. Colorado State?
No, CU.
CU.
Yep. So University of Colorado, Boulder.
Okay.
I was an intern at a radio station, and one of the jobs was bringing up bands for interviews and meet and greets with listeners. And I was like, it's great, but I don't. What happens when they leave here and they get on the bus? I don't really want to be in radio. I don't really want to sit and just go, listen to this. And I did some weekend overnight shifts on Kiss FM for a short stint on the radio. So I guess I have held a mic.
In
I
LA?
forgot about that. No.
Oh.
Denver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and like introducing Beyonce. It was before the weekend shift before the syndicated Kacey came on.
Oh.
It was pretty fun.
Rad.
So I'd go and voice track. And then I was like, I'm just sitting in a studio by myself listening to music, which is great. I was like, what else is out there? So my dear friend Mariah and I heard about the Fox Theater in Boulder, a beautiful theater right on the pretty much on the campus. And we went there and asked the production manager, who was younger than us, Justin Bash. He's still touring. He's touring now as well, doing really well. And we're like, hey, we heard about an internship program here. Well, do you have people? He goes, yeah, what do you guys do? And we're like, well, we want to learn about stage stuff. He goes, cool, sign up on this calendar on the wall and come back.
That was it.
We can do that?
Sign up on the calendar on the wall.
So we put our names on the wall and
Right.
we showed up and we were stagehands. We were loading, go, jump out back. There's a van pulling up, grab their gear. And we just, I worked there for a couple of years to make $6 an hour. I worked security. And then otherwise it was an internship. And I was working security one day at the door. I was clicking, monitoring the amount of people coming in the door. And a guy came up and he's like, what are we at? And I was like, 400 people. He's like, okay, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe I want to be you someday. You're on the road, right? And he was a tour manager.
Okay.
He's like, what's your plan? And I was like, going to graduate and then I'm going to hang for a minute and I think I'm going to move to LA. And he was like, all right, well, let me know if that's your plan because we're from LA and, we've interacted today. This could be, and I'd always interacted with people, but we were in Boulder. So there weren't a lot of bands in Boulder. People
Sure.
would come through in the middle of the country and then 3 months later when they finish the tour, they're not going to remember the woman working in Boulder.
Right.
Or when they're hiring.
Well, as we've experienced too on the other side now being like, oh, like I feel like you do really remember the great people,
Yes.
but then you did 50 more,
Yes.
50 more shows.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh, that person was really cool. Well, if I ever go back to Boulder, I'll look
Right.
up, or
Right.
something. So he actually called me the week before I moved to LA and said, hey, are you moving to LA still? And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving on Friday. And he's like, that's great. We need a merch person. Would you come out with us on the road? We're going to leave at the end of January. This was 2004. And I said, yeah, I think that'd be amazing. So
Cool.
I moved to LA, lived with people I met on Craigslist, settled for like 2 weeks, and then 9 rappers came and picked me up in 2 Escalades at my front door.
This is in my notes in front of me to talk to Lindsey about because this is one of my favorite touring stories of all time.
It was just magical. So I worked they were an underground hip hop group from LA called the Living Legends. They had branches of Merce was the most maybe known because he did a lot of work with Atmosphere from Minnesota,
Sure.
Minneapolis, and the Grouch and Eli. And then when the guys would go out singly, I would go with Merce or I would go with 3MGs or the other, the little breaks of them. But I worked for them for 2 years. And when I was off the road, I would work at their record label, which they had themselves, Legendary Music. And that's where I got my start. For 2 years, I toured with 9 rappers, and I saw some shit. It was really remarkable for 21, 22, coming from Colorado. Not much diversity, not much,
But you were thrown right into it.
It was so awesome.
What an opportunity to start at being like, we need help.
Yeah.
Do you want to come?
And then that tour manager was lovely, Todd. Don't remember his last name, but then he decided he wanted off the road. He went to law school. So I took over tour managing. And it was really great. I mean, it was everything. One thing, since I know we're going to speak about women on the road.
Sure.
I was very respected by all of those guys. And I
feel like that's something when you've told this story to me in the past, that's the biggest thing
I was always
I got out of it.
the protected sister and the one they looked out for. Everybody would be dancing on the bus and I'd walk in with my bag full of money and it was like, stop the music, make a hole. She needs to get through to her bunk. And, other women weren't so nice to me, fans perhaps.
Sure.
Why is she getting special treatment? But I was always so respected by each and every one of those guys. So that was 2 years of my life in LA when I got out of college, and that's how I got started. And that really gave me okay, I think I can do this. And we did a bus tour with, oh crap, I can't remember their name right now. Living Legends headlined in the West Coast, and then this other band, Jedi Mind Tricks.
Oh yeah. Also in the subculture of
Yeah,
hip hop. They're
definitely.
also well regarded.
Really well. Too. And they headlined in the East Coast, and we did like a 2-month tour across the country. And that was my first bus like experience. And there weren't a lot of women. I mean, I was the only woman with Living Legend and Jedi and like all of that.
I also, I mean, this is how many years ago is that? 15-ish years ago?
2004.
I mean, an all male dominated tour. Especially in hip hop, I imagine women at that point hard to find in a role of like I'm the tour manager or doing merchandise or production management, etc. So you might have been leading the way in underground
I felt very
hip-hop.
Supported by those guys, and I giggle one time because it turned out okay. We played a show in Las Vegas, and we knew it was really sketchy, and the guys really supported me, and I had to go settle the show.
Right.
And one of the guys who I babysat for one of them when I was home, like we were also in each other's lives. And then when I was at home and we go do in-stores and stuff. So I was pretty involved there for 2 years.
And would you say there was a deep level of trust?
Yeah, definitely. Well? Definitely. Like taking care of their kids. And
right.
So it was really nice. But we knew the show in Vegas was just a little sketchy. So I went to settle and one of the guys hurled us, we got in like before you play a game, like football game, like, ooh, rah, huddle, thank you. I'm like, the word is, it's not huddle. Cuddle, it's huddle. And he's like, all right, we got to get like something, this isn't a good space. Lindsey's going to go settle. I'm going to send, Scarab's going to go with her, blah, blah. And I remember we went in the office to settle and the guy locked the door behind us and he had a gun on the table. And he's like, here's your money, count it. And I was like, deal. And I counted the money and one of the guys was with me and they're like, yeah, it's good. And they're like, okay. And just the fact that we were locked in a room with a gun on the table and he and I were just like, what the, and we got out and everyone was like, okay, we got to go. Like we just felt like this club getting after hours was just really sketchy. Nothing good was going to come of it. So I was happy that at the moment I went to settle and it's like, nope, you're sending, fine, I'll take a man coming with me to go settle. Yes, I will.
Well, or they could see. They could sense. It didn't matter who it was. It happened to be you, but they were just like, we need to protect Lindsey, one, and two, we don't want to send anybody in there alone anyway, especially not Lindsey.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like, she's got to go because she's our only rep here. I was the only crew member.
Right.
So yeah. And then, so I finished with them because they weren't touring anymore. And sweet Shannon Easton had posted something on Facebook. There was a MySpace.
Yeah.
There was a Merchies page and she had posted and somebody saw it and sent me the link, and it was for Flogging Molly. And I called, and they were like, 2006, they said, we just hired someone. Oh, man, we'll keep your resume. Wait, would you want to go out with Gogo Bordello? We also manage them. And I was like, I would love to. So their management office was like 2 miles from my house. I made a poor decision that whatever day that was, and I decided to walk there. And I remember I had like a periwinkle tank top on, light purple, and I walked there and I walked in and I was just soaking sweat. I was like, I'm here for my interview. And they're like, okay. And I was like, I'm really sorry. And and I interviewed and I got out with Gogo Bordello, went out with them for several months. While we were out, they let go the Flogging Molly person. So when Gogo Bordello was done, they dropped me off at a hotel with the opening band, who was a punk band from England, who were phenomenal. Dead Pets, I think they were called. Going back, and I jumped in a van with them and drove to meet up with Flogging Molly, and that was my real first merch, like with Gogol, and then going to Flogging. But Flogging Molly was a serious merch operation. It was a whole truck. It was I was busting my ass to make it to doors every day, trying to get. They had so much merch, and it was such a big part of their operation.
Yeah, and they come from sort of where my background. They're more like alternative punk world. That's their bread and butter. Yeah. Like the guarantee money that you get paid to play the show is always okay or good, but like your fans are rabid for what can I buy here, and I'm here to buy something, so I hope you have something to sell me tonight.
And they had stuff to sell. They had a huge product line. Yeah.
Did you feel like coming, you just came off a tour where you were selling merch really for not the first time, but that was your only job, like you had moved, you were doing tour management, and then now you're an artist that's selling some merch, and then now you're really getting thrown into the deep end of understanding. I always tell people like anybody can or could sell merchandise.
Definitely.
You need to know how to count money.
Which I'm not good at.
And be good with just numbers
and people
and organized people
Yeah.
and organized. But anybody could figure it out. It isn't
Definitely.
like somebody that's a rigger. That's a lot of experience. That's your people's lives are at stake, et cetera. But T-shirts are like the numbers have to add up. But like nobody's gonna die if a T-shirt falls off a thing.
Right.
Most of the versus somebody that's putting, I don't know, 5,000 pounds of steel above your head. They better know what they're doing.
Definitely. Yeah. It is that way.
But so did you still feel like that was a big jump to like then, like what was a per head for Gogol Bordello and then what was a per head for Flogging Molly?
Yeah. Well, and Gogol was just starting out. This was their first tour on their first record.
So it was small.
Yeah. Some shows had 20 people at it.
Right.
That was probably there was like 7 at one, but that was in Thunder Bay, Canada during a storm. So, we won't count that. But I got interested in doing stage stuff in college. But then when I was offered the job with Living Legends, I thought, well, shit, there's half of it. I can get on the road. Okay, I got to sell merchandise. I've never wanted to do this.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. Now, looking at it, 16 years later, or my 16th year of touring, I did merch for way too long, which was a disservice to myself. And now I've made a line, and I'm not going back. I can't do it anymore. But it was a beautiful entry. And thing for me to do because I wasn't necessarily good at the numbers, like you said, in the counting. And quite frankly, it stressed me out because I'm not a pro mather, but I really enjoy people. Mm-hmm. So sitting in people and hearing their stories, and especially when I was with Tegan and Sara, just seeing those fans and their lives, and it was just, that was powerful.
Right.
So I was with Tegan and Sara for 4 years, and then they asked me back to do a 10-year anniversary tour 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2.
Yeah, the 10-year anniversary of the con that came out, and I was on that tour with them, and I went and did it, and just seeing these people, it was powerful, and seeing the fans, it was humbling, or like whatever, I don't know if it's a stroke of ego or something to me, but it was really lovely 10 years later to go out on the road and stand there and have fans come up to me. One dad came up and he said, "Were you here 10 years ago?" And I was like, "I was." And he's like, "Well, my son was 7 then, and he's 17 now, but you gave him a pick and he still has it," and blah, blah. And then I looked over and the kid's mom was standing there, and she just mouthed me, "Thank you." And he's like, "That meant so much because we valued that." And this was a big moment for my child coming to a show, and he was 7 and figuring himself out and stuff. And it was like, wow, like that's badass. And seeing some of the super fans again 10 years later, and it's like, how are you were at every show for 4 years that I worked.
And you were the frontline face, aside from Tegan and Sara performing on the stage, who that's, everybody's here to see them. You were sort of a direct connection to them.
Well, and they also do a thing I wasn't privy to, but then I caught on real quick when someone asked me, they're like, "Are you still taking the letters?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." So they had a mailbox, and then Tegan and Sara will answer questions or write you back if you put letters in their mailbox. So then I didn't have a mailbox, but I was still taking people's letters. "Please make sure they get this." And I get to go give it to the ladies that night, and they read them, and it's like, they read everything and they look at everything. And it's like, especially their crowd, there's some really special, lovely people who have been, sussing their lives out and figuring themselves out along with the progression of Tegan and Sara. So to see these people just like have support or be able to share their story with the artist.
And to touch on the women note here, there's 2 very strong, bold women.
Holy.
Don't care. They're going to say what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And you're for it or against it, but you hope that everybody there is for it clearly. And need people like that in our space, in the entertainment world, in the political forum in some capacity to speak for people who can't, and that's why they're there.
Yeah. And those are 2 women. I've always said it. I feel just so deeply honored to have been able to work for them. I was with them for 4 years. And they're just brilliant. Their minds are brilliant. They are kind. They're beautiful, supportive women. When we went out on our 10-year anniversary tour, it was cut back, and it was acoustic mostly. And so it was them, and then tour manager, lighting, front of house, head of security, and merch were women. There were 5 women crew.
That's awesome.
And then there was monitors was a lovely gentleman. And I know there's something else I'm forgetting that probably. That I know there was another man up. Oh, tech. And then 2 men, musicians on stage.
But those are guys that have played with them in some capacity for a while or forever.
One of them, Tim Mislock, who is a brilliant artist, he had been with 10 years prior, one of the openers, Holly Miranda. So he and I got to connect again. I'd been on the road with him 10 years prior. He was just on Broadway for a number of years in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I always say it wrong. And he's just wrapped with that, or wrapped right before that tour with that. So it was like, I got to connect with him again and see the girls. And then this was the first time that one of my dear friends, Jill, and I had ever toured together. We'd lived in LA together when we were right out of college. But we never toured together. And when I left, she ended up like a year later tour managing Tegan and Sara, and she's been with them for a number of years. So it's fun to just come around and then make new relationships with women and see them on the road. And the front of house lady is remarkable, and she's been getting a lot of like women in the industry nailing it at front of house accolades, and so it's quite beautiful.
And to tie in the other part, family, tour
Oh,
family.
heavens,
You know,
yeah.
you've already you went through a bunch of it just now, but that in knowing you for almost 10 years now as well, like that seems to be something you value. People that
It's
are
huge for me.
similar train of thought with
Yeah.
you, or just, I don't know, we're all in it together. You know?
Definitely. Most of these tours that I was on, if we were lucky enough to be in a bus, we were on one bus.
Right.
So it was like Gogo Bordello, there were 13 of us on the bus. And with one hotel room on days off. It was awesome. And then Flogging Molly, one bus. Tegan and Sara, we were one bus. We may have moved to two, but I think most of the time we were at one bus when I was with them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then 4 years with Kacey Musgraves, right at the end of my time.
Right.
She, like in the past year, she got her own bus, but we were always one bus. Yeah, so really that to me, I'm more of a small potatoes-y. Like I've done some big tour and I love them, and I think it's really cool to go in with an established artist. But if the artist is starting out or just been doing it for a while and they have the one that like, that's my sweet spot. I want to connect with these people. I want to feel like we have some home. We have a rapport out there, and it's not just someone you end up spending a lot of time with these people.
You do.
And so there's beauty in that. For me, I hold that in high regard. And I hope that I can add to people's joy out there in that way. That's always been a big thing for me, some calm and joy out there.
Yeah.
So.
On the flip side of that, so all of those artists that you worked for, where it was a small, closer knit, one bus, one trailer, one bus, one truck, 12 people in a space together, we're in this, together.
Besides when we, like where I met you on a Mayhem Metal Festival.
Right. Oh,
okay, that's a different
Right.
animal. But yes, if I was working for one artist, it was just that.
And I guess I have that in my notes, I think right here, Mayhem. So that was where Lindsey and I met. We met on a summer metal festival tour. And Lindsey was doing
The guest list.
Guest list ticketing.
Yeah, just guest list, just for every band. Just send me your guest list and I'll sit in the box office all day and give your guests their tickets.
Was that, because I also have in my notes Country Throwdown. So these were two tours that were run by the same group of folks. So For Finney did both, or was involved in both in some capacity.
Yeah, no, they were it, yeah.
And so it was a summer metal tour, with a lot of artists, and then a summer country tour, similar vein, because it was put on by Kevin Lyman, who, he was involved in all
Sara
of it.
Bear, yep.
And of course, Sara. And so their attempts at, metal had kind of, Ozfest had faded, and so they were trying to keep some type of multiple band festival touring going. And then they also took their hand at country and seeing if that model of let's put a bunch of country artists out on the road together to see. And Lindsey and I both did them at different points as well, because I did a country throwdown somewhere, and then I don't think you were there.
Yeah,
but,
I did the first year.
what were you doing for that country throwdown?
Production office assistant to Lisa Brownlee, I believe.
Cool.
And then halfway through, there was some reorganization, and then I moved also to sponsorship. Yeah.
But that's that whole team. They're kind of all working together most of the time.
It was beautiful.
I guess I wanted to throw this in there because Lindsey, she's been working for artists, but then also has this other experience as well with festivals or touring festivals, et cetera. Like, I think for me, I've always considered myself a jack of all trades.
Yes.
And I like to talk to people that have sort of seen a little bit of everything. And I want to delve into that in some of these too, and just see, because people, there are people that just have one thing they're great at, and I've admired that always too.
Definitely.
And sometimes wish I was like, I should have just went to audio school.
Yes.
Or apprenticed or whatever it would have taken to just become an audio engineer in some capacity. But then I also love the challenge of 20 things coming at you at once.
It's true. Yeah. And I guess when I worked at the Fox in Boulder, I was stage stuff and I thought monitors, that's my path. And we had a beautiful monitor engineer there who would hold women only workshops. There were 2 of us women. There were 3 at times, but 2 of us that would attend, Mariah and I. And he would just throw the cables out on the floor and make us roll them over under. And the things that I was like, I'm going to show Gary Yost that I'm going to make it on the road. And then I remember I did call him from LA and I was like, well, I got on the road, but I'm doing merch. He's like, okay, well, get out there and take care of yourself and then do whatever. But I always thought I was going to take that audio path. And I'm not quite sure. I'm street smart. I'm not book smart. So I understood the board. And I was like, I also don't like to be the one with answers all the time or that has the fire on them. Something goes wrong and it's like, oh, crap, I got to solve. Oh, my God. Okay. So with all those thoughts, it was like, and I never took the time because I kept getting job offers. I want to be on the road. I want to be on the road. I love adventuring. When am I going to stop and intern? And there was a portion in LA where I worked at a studio and I loved it. And my boss, for some reason, he was lovely. He trusted me. He would leave me the studio and I would remix records. I would listen to Fiona Apple and remix it. He's like, pull all the levels down and push all the levels up and see how you would remix this record. And he would take me, we went to Dreamweaver, Gary Wright's studio and rebuilt it. Or he's like, we got to rebuild Gary, and I'm like, oh my God, Dreamweaver from Wayne's World.
Yeah.
And he took me along to go see how he built studios. And that was I met that man through a woman I'd met on Warped Tour through Sarah Bear. Oh, she lives in LA. She wants to do audio. Let's talk to her. She does this, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's really obviously another theme of these could be just like talking to people and being out and people recommending you. And, there isn't, the amount of, I think 50% of the time I've sent in a resume. The other times just like, yeah, she's cool. We know her. She'll be good.
Right. I actually was just dealing with that in the last couple of weeks with somebody that I was like, hey, resume. And he's like, I haven't had to have I've just worked for bands for a decade. I'm like, I get that. I guess I've always had a resume because I've done things.
I just add to it.
Well, I've done things outside of, did brand marketing for a bit in between tours. So you had to build something. So I've always had the bones of a resume. But this person was like, I've just been touring for 15 years. I don't have a resume. And I I you know what? To me, that makes sense.
True point. Valid.
Managers don't always, anyway. But so, I guess same thought. I always thought I'd maybe go back and do it as well, and just got caught up in
because I like the adventure.
Yeah,
so it's
like playing shortstop.
Yeah,
that's what I've always attributed
that's a good one.
to.
Yeah,
you're just scooping up grounders because that's been sort of my job more recently. Is somebody. I always tell the story the same. Like somebody comes in carrying this one random little screw, and I'm like, "You need 100 of these, don't you?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's Sunday and 4 p.m. I'm going to do my best, and this is why I'm here."
Yeah, definitely. And I took much that approach as well of just let me, I always want to be I've tried to just say, I want to bring some sense of calm and joy to these people. And I know I mentioned that earlier, but it's like, what can I do? Because I feel like being on the road for so long, it's not kind. And I'm not saying, woe is me, we're on the road. We're very, for the most part, it's like, we've chose this profession.
Sure.
And it's really beautiful. We've got to have some adventures
and travel.
Travel, but that's it. Like I always say, I work to travel. Right. That's it. But and then I work to. I love traveling, and then I get paid so I can then go travel on my own time as well. So this travel theme is my thing. This adventuring, exploring. Yeah.
But so with sort of kindness for self in mind.
Yes. Yes.
I need to go because it's something that I want to touch on with people where the times in their touring life where they hit a low or there was something that really got in their way of personal goals, achievements, or just health or personal everything. And I know, I hate to just call it out, but I know the biggest thing you struggled with was after we just talked about, the family vibe, small touring, and it's in terms of travel capacity, one bus, you're intertwined with those 12 people, all about them, their strengths and weaknesses, when not to push them, when to just, when to have a good time. and then going into a big type production with somebody like Metallica,
Yep.
who you've worked for, where there's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, a lot of personalities, a lot of big personalities, a lot of long-time loyal employees of a band, and then you come in as a newer, younger person compared to a lot of those guys who are guys and gals, I should say.
Yeah. There were 6 women and 60-some men when I was out with them. I lasted 1 year in 2011. Very honored to have worked for them.
Sure. One of the biggest touring outfits in touring.
It was amazing.
We all know that.
Yeah. And still have dear friends out there to this day who are loving it and prospering. My time in, my direct boss who I reported to, we had, he was a difficult personality for me at that point in my life. I didn't know how to handle his energy. And, I think we all know what gets us sick or what triggers us. And I wasn't really in tune with that, but I had a lot of stress and anxiety, but it manifested. Now I know, being 37 years old, at that time it manifested with ovarian cysts. And that was a very real manifestation of my stress. And I've been doing a lot of work on myself in the recent years, but knowing that that's where it happens. Or where my stress puts itself. So at the end of 2011, it was a stressful time. We were doing the 30th anniversary shows. Okay. And for the most part, I made some of the greatest friends out there. It was wonderful. The band was kind, not so much interaction, but James would come into the production office and, how you guys doing today? Everything good? And
I
it was lovely.
At that level with 100 people,
oh my goodness.
You're not going to, I would never expect to get interaction.
No, right.
I would just hope that no one was throwing a chair at my head. At that
definitely. But one of the last shows, it was stressful and it was too much for me. And this, just this personality of being condescended and kind of yelled at regularly. And I had an ovarian cyst rupture. And that made me give pause because that was the most pain I've ever felt in my life. After we finished those shows, I was like, no, I can't, I got to stop. I'm going to stop.
Right.
And I stepped up. I left. We were done then in December, and he asked if I would come back the next year. And I just said, I can't. And I actually had planned a month-long trip to go visit my cousin in China. And I also worked at a sheep dairy, interning making cheese and taking care of lambs and sleeping in the barn. Anyway, when I was in Colorado. So I know he called me. I remember he called me and I had spotty service. And I was like, I can't come back on the road. I'm at the sheep dairy right now. And I'm also going to China for a month. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I just had to step away. And that was 2012. I just kind of stepped away, reorganized. I ended up doing a yoga teacher training just because I wanted to be more mindful of my body and how it was reacting and gain strength for me, because I know I have scoliosis, and knowing that if my core is strong, my back doesn't hurt as much, and then I can maintain on the road. It all comes from this deep health, ease, calm place for me. And when I was challenged I learned so much from that when I was challenged, where my anxiety spikes and then how my body takes care of itself or where it goes. So 2012, I stopped for a little bit for that year. Yeah.
Let's also talk about in everything you just covered, your sort of transition into, aside from yoga teacher training, which is a strong foundation to help people with health on the road, to recently you've been doing life coaching as well.
I've been in a developmental coaching program. I'm still in it right now and taking clients.
I guess I want to touch on, I've tried to ask everybody that's come and sat down with me so far, what are their, on the road, what do they do, or what are their things that keep them calm or happy or sane or both physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. So on your off day or on your on show days, what at this point now with you had that moment, you paused, you put it on pause. You said, I need to take care of myself first, which I think we as humans ignore.
Absolutely.
And doesn't matter what you do in life. We ignore it. I had my own bout with it where you're putting everything else before yourself. And
absolutely. And I think that's much a detriment to our American society, is you are supposed to work until you retire, and hopefully you don't die before you retire. And then you can go on vacation, and then you can go have fun and live your life. I've never been one to subscribe to that. So I'm going to piecemeal my life together while I'm adventuring and adventure at the same time.
Right.
But you asked what I do on the road. And I think when I started working with Kacey, I was like, I want to do yoga. And I never really did it. We just kind of like ran out of time, but we'd also do just like calm check-in breaths. And her lovely steel player at the time, Adam Ollendorf, he led some yogas when we had time, like when we were opening, when I first went out, she's opening for Katy Perry. So we'd run into a dressing room and steal some space, and a couple of us would do yoga. For me, I do a 5-minute stretching routine in the morning. I have to. And on Kacey, it was I would just get out of the bus and do my stretches or in the morning, and people would just walk by me like they'd even notice me because it was what I did every morning. That had to happen. Mm-hmm. I kind of say like it's like putting Humpty back together again. I had to do it.
Right.
So I do that. More recently, just noticing when that anxiety comes in, and a lot of things, thankfully, are making me giggle because I come back to like, this is music, and we can yell and we can scream, and it can seem like the end of we're helping musicians on stage share their beautiful gift with the world. So noting that and knowing that if you don't get this green juice exactly right or whatever it is, like, and with Kacey, on the last run I did with her, every morning we had beet juice because the caterer had a juice machine, and it was like, this is our standard. It was just these little sweet things. And with Kacey, going back to the family, that's one of the deepest senses of family I was blessed to have on the road. But every morning the guys get up, and it's immediate. Like I would get anxiety if I noticed one of the guys was awake already, because maybe I was going to miss the coffee walk. But every morning they get up and look for a lovely coffee shop, and whoever wants to you go walk for coffee. And on days off, it's even quicker of a get up, and you go coffee, and then maybe you go lunch, and then you go, and it's just all day enjoying each other and the space. We went on hikes. We stayed in teepees one time. Like we took advantage of the spaces we were in. We didn't spend a lot of time in the hotel. Maybe it was to run back and shower before dinner or change, but we were always out there. And I think that fostered or allowed mental health when we were out adventuring every day with each other, exploring the area.
Right. I think I love just hearing everybody's interpretation of what they do in those spaces. Those days off or time, like any time you might have to yourself, what it is. And that all sounds amazing to me, especially the coffee portion.
Yes.
And I know I prepped you on this. So you have a shop somewhere in America?
I do. When you asked me, you just sent me a little thing this morning of like, here's my few ideas. And you had said in a favorite coffee shop. And I was like, oh my gosh, I actually saved not so much a coffee. I do remember it, but I saved it. So I brought the card because I had it on my table.
Lindsey's actually holding a card, business card.
It's a business card, and it's quite crumpled. But I think I almost threw it away. But then I was like, no, I'm going to want to remember this. And I'm glad I actually did, because I thought it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's in Oklahoma City.
Oh.
And what it was, I think it's called Okay Yeah Coffee.
All right.
I'm pretty sure. And it's just like a ramshackle. And I'm curious because I had a, what's the silver sleeping thing from 1950s, the camper.
Airstream.
Thank you. They had one inside, but it was just all...
you could sit in it? It was like seating?
No, it wasn't anything, actually. And I was dreaming of making it a taco stand if I lived there. It was just storage. Mm-hmm. But then inside, it was all plants. And you walk straight back to the coffee. And the left-hand side was a plant bar. And you could go up there and you could pick a succulent. You have told me
about this place.
And pot it. And I was sitting in there with 2 of the band members from Kacey this past spring. Yeah, man, it was like a year ago. And I just started crying. And they're like, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, I think this is my dream. And I was like, if I could put breakfast tacos right there, there's coffee and there's plants. And this lady is standing there waiting for people to come package up and plant their own succulents for a couple dollars and put them in these pots. And then I was like, and look at that pencil cactus in the window. And look at this. And we were just sitting on benches drinking this delicious coffee. And I was like, this is what life's about. So those guys with the band for Kacey, a few of them that take coffee very seriously. And we would make pour-overs every morning on the bus with a hand grinder, and then you start the water for the person behind you, and it was a whole beautiful morning ritual we had out there, which I deeply cherished. But yeah, so I think it was called Okay Yeah Coffee with just Plant Shop with an E in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So I hope to go there again sometime. We'll see.
that we just went through so much. I
We
love
did.
that. That was a good
I
run.
think we were also, you had mentioned mental health.
Yes.
And I was going to say, I came off the road last May and I went into a developmental coaching program, which I'm still a part of. I hope to take that on the road. My dream is to take that on the road with women, because I am a woman, but new artists, maybe not new artists, but artists and crew need support out there. And I think that kind of, sometimes the artists maybe will get support if they're lucky enough, but then the crew is not supported as much. And yes, you can have a massage therapist out, or like, if people come through Nashville, they can call my father for an adjustment or something. But having someone out there, and I dream of like being the one out there who recycles all, or, packages up all the extra catering and gives it to the charity. But then we're also someone had something happen with their family. I was just on a gig. I don't say that, a work thing last week.
You can say gig on this podcast. I know you hate that word, but you could say gig.
My back.
It's a gig.
And bless his heart, the crew, one of the gentlemen, his mother passed away and he didn't go home. And I was talking to him, you doing okay? No. And he's like, but I'm not a quitter. And so he wasn't going to go home because he didn't want to let down his other 4 crew guys. I'm very much a quitter. I would have been out the moment. Nothing matters to me more than my family and nothing, and life.
Agreed. Same. I can respect that, but also I would have probably been like, we're putting you on a plane.
Go.
Tonight.
You have to go.
Like, we're good.
Yeah,
we'll figure this out. You need to go home. Like
this gentleman had a heart attack 3 weeks prior, and then his mother passed, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of like pretend he was a little baby and cradle him in my arms and be like, we got this. Like, let's be kind to ourselves. But my dream is to somehow bring that peace and calm. There's so much that can happen on the road, and your head goes there, and it is a bubble. Like I remember, I go out there and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I have a house in Nashville. Oh, I have friends. You kind of just into your road life, and you come back here. And bless your heart if you're in a relationship and trying to figure that out on the road and being away and all of that.
Right.
But bringing some semblance of normalcy or just that mental and physical health. If, like I know Metallica's blessed to have, Robert Trujillo has a personal assistant, or he had a personal trainer who he was using for years. And he was like, hey man, do you want to come on the road with me? And I also need an assistant, like to turn in my guest list and to help me with ever bits and bobs. And his name is Jeff Bass. He's like, yeah, I'll go. And he's been on the road now. I think he started right around the same time I was out there, 2011. But it's like every day Robert and him get up and it's like mental health day. Like, let's work out. Let's be here. Like, and a lot of us crew aren't given that gift when we have to get up at 6 a.m. And a lot of people work straight through. I'm not trying to say that we don't have moments, but I've tried to pay attention to the 2 seconds in between. The 30 seconds you go to the bathroom, add another 30 seconds and take it just take a moment. And, so I don't know my path yet with that. I'm kind of just open palms to the universe being like, okay, what's going to come my way? I'm giving this directive. I'm giving this energy and power to this idea, to this thought, and seeing what manifests and what can be brought my way. I don't have a clear direct path, but I'm just getting the train. I did a Reiki training this summer, levels 1 and 2, doing this mindfulness, presence-based coaching, and seeing where it can lead from there.
But I think you're absolutely right in a sense of it's the last thing anybody thinks about, but it should be one of the more important. Aside from
if one person goes down, if one person goes down, we're all affected.
Yeah.
And so let's prop each other up and give each other this space and eat these meals and mindfully. And
right. Well, and even just the way you said it, that's exactly, before you said it, I thought like just having a person that your job is that if somebody's like, hey, I just need to talk to somebody, not somebody in this overall circle where somehow it's going to get back on. Like, I need to say something right now. Yes. You're basically playing life coach therapist, which is fair. Sometimes people we do this to each other a lot for a decade, you and I. You just need to call and say something and somebody to respond positively and give you their thought. Yeah. We all have...
Or just listen. We don't listen a lot in this culture anymore. We're so busy and so frantic and so posting every moment. But what if we just stopped and listened to each other? And some people just need someone to listen, that they don't want to go to their fellow crew member and complain that they're wife is sad at home, or their kid's struggling in the 4th grade and he's not reading up to, but he's not home. The dad or the mom isn't home to read with the kid because they're on the road. They just need to air that, but they don't want to air it to their coworker because, sometimes you just don't want to.
And also in that same note, it's maybe that person, you're like, why is that person so aggro today?
Yeah,
and
right.
It's for those 2 reasons you just listed. And you don't know because they're not communicating it or having a chance to let it out.
Yeah.
Just let it out to someone. So yeah.
Because it is a pickle of a life leading basically 2 lives. You have your home life and your away life. And, I'm single and it still puts strain on my life, even though I don't have someone at home or kids at home or dogs or anything to put my care towards. It's plants and stray cats right now when I go on the road again.
Right.
And I already have to stress about who's going to take care of those. But just to be able to say something to someone and not have it threaten your job. If you're tired or sad one day and you want to say something to a coworker, like, oh, well, do you need to fly home? It's like, I just need to say this. I just need to get it out. Do you have any, things that can help? Yeah, we're just going to take a breath when you are standing up at front of house, when you're standing at your lighting console, when you're standing wherever it is, stage left or right. Are you taking a moment? If you're in the pit, security, what are you doing?
Instead of staring at your phone, take a minute to your and I'm, because of you and the conversations that we've had over the years, I've been with how you just said it. We're putting on a show. Nobody's dying. Man. We're everybody needs to be working at their best level, and I will never not. But sometimes, I'm going to walk around. I'm just going to take a lap.
Just take a lap. That's it. After doors, I know there's a lot of people out there. If it's out, go out the back door, you take a lap. Go through the audience. People watch for a moment. Let their joy of being at that show that you had helped set up, let that move you for a minute.
Even, Andrea and I have been joking, and we did it a bunch in spurts, but we were on this next round of touring. We were like, every day we're going to do push-ups. Something. Stand up, stretch, push-ups, jumping jack.
Absolutely.
Even if it's for 5 minutes, it's better than sitting awkwardly in a weird crook neck space for 5 more minutes. So it's like,
or bring a medicine or one of those big exercise balls. With Metallica, we did a rehearsal for one of their movies for 6 weeks on Treasure Island in California, and I was like, I can't sit in a chair every day from 7 a.m. I had to be there till whenever the automation crew was done or whatever. And so I got a big bouncy ball, and I just sat there, and it was like, okay, I'm moving, I'm doing something. I'm not just sitting, falling asleep at this table in this cold warehouse.
It keeps all the blood flowing, too.
Yeah, and it was just something different, like bringing a little bit of... So there's a lot of little just nuances that we could pay attention to that after, they add up to a little bit of light on the road or more light on the road.
I'm hoping to talk to him about all this as well, but my roommate, who also tours and works in the industry, he brought up something interesting, and maybe when I get him to come on and talk to me, he can speak to it more. He's thinking about having an occupational therapist come and follow him for a day to see if he's standing funny or his next, when he's working on gear or what he's doing with his body all day or how he's walking or how he's, and he said that the other day, and I was like, that's genius. So somebody that's their job to come in and be like, here's some advice. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do, but I'll say, if you shifted and sat this way, your back might not hurt anymore.
Because a lot of these things, in any regard, you've been doing for a number of years and you don't even realize them, or if it's just, the shitty shoes that we wear or any of that kind of stuff.
And thinking back 10 years ago, like wearing slip-on Vans, I was like, what was I doing all day on my feet wearing those? Like, how, like, why did it looked cooler, but my back is probably like, thanks, dude. Yeah. Thanks.
That really sucked.
Dumb.
And like,
that was dumb.
You're on cement floors or whatever. So just being kind and just thinking about that. But those things that you don't even think about that to someone else, like an occupational therapist or someone who has tuned into their own body, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? And you're like, I didn't even know, because it's ingrained in you. And that just speaks back to habit nature. It's a habit nature
So
thing.
Also just something, maybe if you're you get that opportunity to go out, maybe look into some of that as well in that world. Definitely. For you to be able to just kind of give thoughts to people on, I think
how they're holding themselves,
posture, et cetera. But I thought that was
Definitely.
genius. And I really do want to talk to Michael and sit down and have a long chat with him and bring him on the show as well and see what he has to say. But I want to see if maybe by that point he had done it. Because he's saying, like, kind of going into this year, he'd like to do that. So I thought that was genius.
Well, if we want to keep doing this for a while, we need to be able to maintain and not maintain it just a level, but like a functional maintenance, a healthy, not just I'm drinking 8 cups of coffee and I'm eating whatever shit food is laid out for me. It's like, no, let's get better catering or, bring some healthy bars on the road if you need to snack attack in between, or get the protein you need, or just there, with some work, it is all doable, and we can maintain, because it is a slog out there. There are long hours, and even how we sleep in those bunks.
Yeah.
And there's just so much of it. So yeah, I'd be very interested. It's a whole nother world to dive into with that on the road.
Let me ask you some questions that I'm trying to ask everybody.
Yep, ready.
Just because I feel like everybody's answer is different. So, discounting a computer and a phone, which we all sort of need to work and function at this point. Most people, but especially out there. What is your number one touring essential, the thing you have to take with you on the road?
Can I list a couple?
Sure.
I like a bunk blanket. I usually get cold, and the blankets aren't very thick, so I always bring my own bunk blanket. Or recently I got a knapsack, a wearable sleeping bag. You can like cinch it at the bottom or stuff it up and you can walk in it. And I've taken it on a couple trips and like on airplanes. That's pretty hip.
I believe Polar makes those.
They
do. Great company.
Yeah, I really like that knapsack. I'm going to take it on my next run. I'm already planning on it.
Cool.
What else? I try to be minimal, like a couple pairs of jeans, a couple pairs of gray t-shirts. This next run I have, I've got to wear black stuff, so getting ready for that. Comfortable shoes. Always flip-flops if it's a venue shower. And if you don't have flip-flops, I grab some paper plates and use them in the shower of the venue.
I'm taking that tip now. I usually just try and keep my toes up, but yeah, no, it's like think college. You just don't want to be. No.
Venues, I think, for the most part, are getting better because artists have been like, I'm here all day,
right? And
some hip venues in like Milwaukee, with the coffee shops in them all the time. The Anthem in DC has a coffee shop in it, or backstage.
I just saw some friends were in Philly yesterday at the new Fillmore, and it looks like Star Wars, and there's literally an X-wing in the giant dressing room.
Oh my goodness!
They went for it. In Philly. That seems so cool.
Some venues are really paying attention, and then like delightful catering and the coffee. So they're being more mindful if they care, and it tends to be like, maybe touring people who are now off the road and in venues, or just taking a break, and when they're home, they work at these venues and manage them beautifully.
And are making quiet suggestions to update. And because it is one thing, we're so fortunate we get to do this for a living. I will never discredit that, say that. And I don't ever want this to sound like we're all just like we're spoiled. Like I've never taken it for granted.
No.
We get to travel for a living.
This is a gift.
And we're a part of a thing that somebody gets to come experience. And we want them to have, you said it earlier with the fans for Tegan. It's like you made those people's lives. You made the parents remembered you. Like that's cool to me.
Yeah.
But we're also not home. You're not in your living room. So you're hoping that when you get to that spot for you're like, please just have something comfortable for me to sit down in. Yeah. A calm place for me to eat in. Even if I'm going to be in there for very quickly, it's terrible for us. We all eat too fast on the road. We just do. But you please just let there be some comfort in it.
Or at least the dressing room area is clean from the night before his band.
Yes,
that's always a nice thing.
Yeah,
but and also with that being, I do take more time to eat now. On my last run, granted we were opening, but all of us met at the table and we'd read the news of the state in the USA Today and read each state's news and take that minute, because it's like, no, I need this energy to carry on with the rest of my day. This is really important to me, and everything else can wait for 30 seconds. It just, that self-care, I just keep coming back to it because it is what keeps us going out there. You can fall apart so quickly.
Yeah.
And not even notice.
Okay, well, coming off that thought, also advice you could offer to yourself 10 years ago and then 5 years ago, at those different crux points of touring. Yeah. What would you say to yourself, knowing what you know now? Yeah. In some of those moments, and with training and everything you've described now in this chat, like what a few things you would say to yourself?
I think 10 years ago, I may have said, maybe take a moment and learn a craft and don't just keep taking the merchandise gig. I mean, I've been blessed with every job. Feel very fortunate, like we've said, with every job, but maybe would have stopped and said, like, you really had an interest in doing monitors. Like, could you actually do that? Let's suss it out. Not just try to shadow people on the road, but also you have a full-time job on the road. So that never worked out. 5 years ago, I would have said, keep breathing. You're going to meet some mean ladies, but you're going to make it through. And there's going to be some awesome supportive ladies who are going to keep supporting you. We're going to will be beautiful and support you through it all. And you're going to see some shit, but you got this, like just stay true, always just staying true to you. I think you can waver so much out there. Like, we all can. We be influenced by different things. But coming back to like, why am I out here? What matters to me? And my lens has changed a bit for why I'm out there now, why I want to be out there in the future. And seeing if I could make those things, basically like creating a position on the road that doesn't exist in a couple capacities.
Right.
But I think just always staying true, like, and just taking the jobs, when someone offers you too little money and saying yes because you want to be on the road, and then realizing later, like, man, that felt really shitty. I wasn't valued. I wasn't being honored for all the time I put in. It was because someone was jealous of me and trying to have power over me. Oh man, that feels shitty. You should have just said no and walked away. But you exit gracefully and you just hold your head high and know that leaving one job, this would be like the 22-year-old me. Like, don't worry about leaving one job doesn't hold all the keys. One music industry job doesn't hold all the keys.
I think that's just good advice. You could say one job. Let's say that to everybody right now.
Yeah, one job.
What you're doing.
It's okay. You can have 300 jobs.
Yeah.
It's okay. Keep exploring. Do what feels good to you. If it doesn't feel good anymore, if it doesn't bring you joy, just like cleaning your house, if an item doesn't bring you joy, get it out. If the job doesn't bring you joy and it's making you physically and mentally ill, step away. It's okay. Your ego will recover.
Cool. I think that's a lovely note to end on.
Thank you.
This also is your opportunity to plug anything you'd like to plug or anything worthwhile. Say, you can leave on one other final note, but I think that's a lovely note. But just like anybody that might be interested in kind of reaching out to Lindsey about coaching. Yeah,
coaching, definitely.
She also loves to talk plants.
I love to talk plants. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's another thing on the road you said.
Yeah.
I found a big difference when with Kacey, we had crystals and plants on the bus. Mm-hmm. A lot of fans gave her beautiful cactus and stuff. That really made a difference. So on the next tour I'm on, I was thinking about probably one of the first days off, I'll go get a little plant and just stick it on the bus to have some life, like a pothos that really likes the sun in the windows, but giving a little bit of greenery on those buses, those quite cold, sterile buses, really can do things for your soul. But at least it does for mine. So that would be another item I bring on the road. But I really love talking to women who want to be in the industry or trying to get on there.
You were ending on such a great note. I was going to ask one more question, but didn't. But since we're opening the can back up, I'm going to
open it up, Ev.
Well, so now that was advice to yourself for 10 and 5 years. What advice could you give to a young woman that has been going to see their favorite artist, but they're like, I'm interested. I see other women up there. What are they doing? Yeah. What's your advice to? Yeah,
find those women. I mean, we have so many ways now. When I started out, I used to just look up managers and send them my resume or say, hi, I want to be on the road. And some didn't write back and a lot did and said, oh, we don't need anyone right now, but we'll keep your resume. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I got a response and my name was in their inbox. So that was cool. Go and make, in music, it is a man's world, let's say, much like the world is. So women, it's okay to be kind to yourself and it's okay to be kind to other women. They're not competition. We're all holding each other up. So when you come across another woman who you deem that you are threatened by or who is in a position of power or has something that you want, instead of going to that woman and taking it out on her, maybe sit with yourself and ask why you're threatened by this woman, and instead how you can prop each other up. Maybe you'll take a different position. Maybe you'll ask how she got to her place and what you guys could do together if you're working together. Mm-hmm. But there's not enough space in the music industry for women to not support each other. And if you need anything, reach out to me. Like, I have a couple women right now who've reached out. I'm like, I don't know of any jobs, but I've got your resume if you just want to talk about, in that one internship right now in college. It's not the be all end all. If you don't like it, if you're not being treated right, if you're being taken advantage of, it's okay to leave. You'll find other internships, especially here in Nashville.
Right.
Or if you want to get on the road, it's okay. And I think people have always asked me, so you're just on the road for right now. It's a phase. You'll get over it, but you want to work in an office, like in management or something. I said, oh, no, be very clear. I will never work in an office building for management. Like, I don't want to work in management ever. I've never wanted to. I never will.
I think I've come in and out of that and realized I wouldn't survive.
No, it's not my world. I'm in this to adventure. I'm in this to travel. I'm in this to see people smile on the road.
I think as much as I've tried to get away from that, same.
Yeah. Same. And so just, stick with what makes you feel good. If it doesn't make you feel good, leave. It's okay. Just serve yourself. Be kind to yourself. I think that's it.
All right. And where can we find you? So what is, I know Lindsey has a personal account, but also has, I believe, a plant account.
I have a plant and face wash / beard oil account on Instagram called Moon and Mountains.
So what is the Instagram handle for Moon and Mountains?
It's Moon and Mountains Nash.
Okay. And then the plant related?
No, that's the same one.
Oh, it's all together.
Yeah. Oils and plants.
Because I believe, isn't your personal one private?
It is.
It is. So if you want to try and get a hold of Lindsey at Moon
and Mountains. Moon and Mountains Nash.
Okay.
Moon and Mountains Nash. Yes. And just stick with it, because sometimes you stick with stuff long enough and you may get your dreams. Like, I'm going out on my dream tour in a couple months and I could not be more excited. Well, so
I love that. I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed everything Lindsey had to offer today. I think a lot of sound advice, both for us all as humans, women in the entertainment music industry, and just in general.
Yeah.
Let's love ourselves, huh?
Definitely. And you don't need to be a hard ass and put other people down. Love yourself, love them. We're all in it together. I mean, that's super cheesy, but it's the truth also. So
cool.
Be kind to yourself.
Lindsey Bathke, thank you for being a part of Notes from the Road.
Evan Peary, thank you for having me and for being my friend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to my dear friend Lindsey for her words of kindness and wisdom. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Notes from the Road Pod. Subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts, or add us on Spotify, Google Play, or SoundCloud. Notes from the Road is produced and engineered by Isaac Burkhart, along with production and design by Andrew Cook. Thanks. See you next time.